But we begin with that breaking news from Parliament Hill. Labour Minister Seamus O'Regan is resigning from Cabinet and will not run in the next election. Here's how O'Regan explained the decision in a statement a short time ago. He said these were difficult decisions. Being chosen as MP in 3 elections over 9 years by the people of this riding has been a great honour. But ultimately, my family comes first. I need to be a better husband, son, uncle and friend, and this job means and deserves a lot of time in order to do it well. David Cochrane, the host of Power and Politics, broke the story of Seamus O'Regan's decision to quit Cabinet. He has more now on what we know about his reasons for leaving.
Essentially, to accomplish what he wants to do on the home front, he cannot live up to the obligations of being the Minister of Labour and the Minister of Seniors. So Seamus O'Regan is resigning effective tomorrow from his cabinet job, staying on as the MP. Right there, that's him and his husband, Steve Dowsis, who lives and works in Toronto, while Seamus O'Regan spends a lot of his time in Ottawa and in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and then travelling around the country as required as Minister of Labour. And that is one of the factors he has cited, and one of the factors that he has mentioned in conversations I've had with him just casually over the past year, as he sort of talked about politics and his future, because he's been there now 9-10 years. If you go back to when he moved back to St. John's after his career as the host of Canada AM and other works in journalism in Toronto to begin his political career, to campaign for the seat in Parliament, representing St. John's South Mount Pearl. It's been about a decade. And if he were to stick around in Cabinet to run again in the next election, that means signing up for another 4 years. Should he be reelected? Should they form government? And that is just not something at this stage in his life. His father passed away recently. His mother is getting older. His husband lives and works in another city. And so for all of these reasons, Seamus O'Regan is leaving Cabinet, though staying on as an MP, which means, importantly, Andrew, there will not be another by-election in a seat that the Liberals have to deal with before the next election.
Okay, that's probably something that they don't want to have.
That's important, man. Trust me.
Yeah.
After losing Toronto St. Paul's.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we have some clarity now on what is going to happen with Cabinet. So tell us about that, David.
Yeah, we've got a statement from the Prime Minister's office. And I should point out, too, Andrew, Seamus O'Regan and Justin Trudeau are longtime personal friends, knew each other before politics, were at each other's weddings. So this is a personal friendship that goes just beyond Cabinet and caucus collegial working relationships. The Prime Minister says Minister O'Regan has been a steadfast advocate for labour unions and workers. He has implemented measures for free and fair bargaining, including by introducing historic anti-scab legislation to ban replacement workers. He has worked extensively with partners to solve complex labour disputes at the bargaining table while protecting trade and jobs. He extends his sincere thanks to Minister O'Regan for his exceptional leadership and dedication to making life better for Canadians. I should point out these came out within close proximity of each other, so this was a coordinated, sequenced announcement. As for Cabinet, the Prime Minister and his office say the new Minister of Labour and Seniors will be sworn in at Rideau Hall on July 19th, 2024. So, Andrew, that confirms what I had been suggesting earlier, that this will be a one-for-one Cabinet move tomorrow. Given that you are doing a small move and there are some simmering labour issues on the table right now with railways and ports in Canada, they're likely to turn to experience. I think the leading candidate would be Steve McKinnon, who's been serving as the House Leader while Karina Gould was on maternity leave. Karina Gould is back now. The expectation is she would go back into her old role, and Steve McKinnon would maybe replace Seamus O'Regan as Minister of Labour at the Cabinet table. That is speculation, but that is where Liberals are saying they would place the odds right now as the favoured pick. We'll find out tomorrow officially for sure when that swearing-in happens at Rideau Hall. And then, of course, there's a Cabinet meeting as well, Andrew, the first one since that by-election loss in Toronto St. Paul's.
That's the CBC's David Cochrane, and David will interview Seamus O'Regan live tonight on Power and Politics. Watch for that at 5 o'clock Eastern right here on CBC News Network. For more, though, I want to bring in Stephanie Chouinard. She's an associate professor of political science at the Royal Military College of Canada, and she's joining us from Toronto. Stephanie, thanks so much for jumping on with us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
So we have Seamus O'Regan leaving Cabinet for family reasons. What does his departure mean for the Liberal government?
Well, it's bad news, and obviously the rumor mill will be that, with Carolyn Bennett leaving, with him leaving now, two cabinet members, it's sort of a prelude to what we can expect in the next few months upcoming with the federal general election. But I think it's important to take what Minister O'Regan said and take it at face value. It is true that politics is hard on families, and it is particularly hard when you live far away from the capital. Traveling from Ottawa to St. John's, I'm an Atlantic Canadian myself. I know what that entails. When you do that every week and your close ones are not even in either one of those cities, that takes a toll. And I think nobody will understand how much politics can take a toll on family as Prime Minister Trudeau. So I would take Mr. O'Regan's comments at face value. That being said, it's a huge loss for this cabinet and for government. Mr. O'Regan was one of the best communicators that this team had, and a team that has been said in recent times lacks good communicators, lacks people who can speak to Canadians and explain in layman's terms and terms that people will hear what this government has been trying to do to make life easier for Canadians in hard times. So from that perspective, I think it's a pretty big loss.
Like you mentioned, though, if he's not the only one leaving, I mean, you were sort of alluding to this, but how does that sort of reflect the Liberals and how they're perceived right now?
Well, it reflects on a team that's tired. Minister O'Regan came in the 2015 election. He was I would surmise he was recruited by Prime Minister Trudeau himself. They were longtime personal friends, as was just mentioned. And so he's been there since the beginning of this government. And 9 years in, he may be tired, and there is more than likely a lot of others like him who feel that way. So it wouldn't be entirely surprising looking at the polls right now, and in Mr. O'Regan's specific circumstances, the electoral boundaries were about to change. His riding of St. John's South Mount Pearl will no longer exist in the upcoming election. So he may have thought that it was a good time for him to bow out at this time.
In terms of the Labour Minister position, with Seamus O'Regan leaving it, a new Labour Minister is going to be appointed tomorrow, Stephanie. But could there be a bigger cabinet shuffle in the works here for this government?
I would be very surprised if there was a massive shakeup at this point, to be honest, from what we've been hearing, and this was just alluded to. It seems like it will just be the replacement tomorrow of this specific position. I think if it had been meant to be a larger shakeup of who's around the cabinet table, it may not have come less than 24 hours after Mr. O'Regan's announcement. So I'm not expecting that a lot of musical chairs will be played tomorrow.
Could there be some musical chairs played, though, in maybe the month to come?
I mean, a cabinet shuffle, it's always, the summer is always a good time to go through those, because it allows future ministers to get acquainted with their portfolio before heading back to Ottawa for the new parliamentary session. So it would be a good time in the next month or so to go ahead with such changes if the Prime Minister saw it fit. But we need to remember that there was a pretty massive cabinet shakeup in the last year, and we saw this as Mr. Trudeau wanting to have a strong team in place before the next election. That being said, of course, there's a lot of rumors going about with respect to the position of finance minister, with talks between Mr. Trudeau and Mark Carney specifically having taken place, and what Mr. Carney's future holds in Canadian politics. So this will be perhaps one to watch in future weeks. But personally, I would be very surprised if that came up in tomorrow's cabinet shuffle. Yeah,
we read about those talks reported in the Globe and Mail between the Prime Minister and the former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney as well. Stephanie, we'll leave it there for today. But thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
That was Stephanie Chouinard. She is a associate professor of political science at the Royal Military College of Canada.